Thanks to friends, Courteney Cox became a worldwide celebrity in 1994. Few people are aware that she intended to pursue architecture and avoid the spotlight before becoming famous. In addition to sacrificing her personal life when she eventually entered the entertainment industry, she also made choices that caused her career to stagnate for years. You may view some of her most intimate images in this video, which captures moments that have never been made public. Why was she unable to achieve the same success as Jennifer Aniston? What secret kept her away from Hollywood for so long? You'll understand everything if you watch through to the finish. Richard Louis Cox and Courtney Bass welcomed Courteney Cox into the world on June 15, 1964, in Birmingham, Alabama. She has an older brother, Richard Jr., and two older sisters, Virginia and Dorothy. The family lived nicely because her father was a prosperous businessman. However, genuine love cannot be bought with money, and when Courtney was just 10 years old, her parents got divorced in 1974. Courtney's mother did not experience difficulty following her divorce from her father. She left everything from her former life behind when she fell in love with Hunter Copeland, another wealthy businessman, and married him nearly immediately. She was charming and beautiful. Nevertheless, Courtney received an unanticipated gift from this second marriage, a link to the music business, as her stepfather Hunter was the uncle of renowned music manager and promoter Ian Copeland. Despite being surrounded by entertainers as a child, Courtney didn't immediately express a desire to pursue a career in show business. She actually enrolled at Mount Vernon College in Washington, D.C., following her graduation from Mountain Brook High School, pursuing architecture as a major. And it was during this seemingly improbable time that her abrupt ambition to enter the entertainment industry came to pass. She took a risk by not finishing her architecture studies. She left school to pursue acting and modeling full-time. The majority of her relatives and friends were unable to understand the choice. Why enter the turbulent world of show industry instead of pursuing a steady, respectable career like architecture? Courtney, however, was determined to disprove them. She was unable to change her mind. Regretfully, the initial stages appeared to validate everyone's concerns. Hollywood did not embrace her despite her attractiveness. Entering the field was quite challenging. Courtney also obtained a job at Bethesda Softworks, a video game developer, to help support herself. In the early 1980s, gaming was still relatively new. There wasn't much glamour in her primarily administrative profession, but Courtney persisted in moving forward in spite of all the challenges. Then, at the age of 20, fortune finally came her way in 1984. One of the major directors of the new Hollywood age, Brian Dielma, was looking for a young woman to play Bruce Springsteen's love interest in a music video that year. Brian selected Courtney to co-star with the renowned Bruce Springsteen in Dancing in the Dark after hundreds of girls tried out. She felt a surge of attention she had never experienced before, and the experience was beautiful for her. It was a significant turning point in her acting career. Entering Hollywood was just the beginning. The path to becoming a real star was a very different one. In 1985, Courtney landed her first significant role as Gloria Dano in the NBC science fiction series Misfits of Science. Sadly, the program didn't do as well as anticipated and was canceled after just one 16-episode season. Actually, Courtney had no intention of joining Misfits of Science. Everything happened by accident. She once went to Universal Studios to try out for the Foxfire action-adventure series. She discovered that a casting session for Misfits of Science was taking place next door after being chosen for just 2 episodes. Courtney, who was desperate to find employment, came in, bravely tried out, and unexpectedly got the job. She thought her career could only advance from there, even though the series wasn't the breakout she had hoped for. That's what she believed anyway. However, luck appeared to elude her once more. Courtney was forced to take on minor supporting parts in a number of TV series. She wrote that she starred in Murder and The Love Boat during this time. In Family Ties, she also played Michael J. Fox's character's girlfriend on a regular basis. Although it wasn't the role she had envisioned, it was still preferable than having no job at all. Courtney kept putting her skills to the test on the big screen in the late 1980s and early 1990s. She made appearances in Cocoon, The Return, Masters of the Universe, and later the cozy family movie, I'll Be Home for Christmas. Courtney demonstrated her resilience as an actress by refusing to stagnate, despite the fact that her roles were still modest. Her portrayal of Jewel Jagger, James Belushi's shrewd, tough, and no-nonsense assistant in Mr. Destiny, stands out as the most remarkable achievement of this era. The role presented viewers with a Courtney who was intelligent, powerful, and slightly mischievous, a mix that was uncommon on film at the time. She was gradually adding weight on her resume, but she was still not fully in the spotlight. She ascended gradually, calmly, and without knowing that the most significant life turning point would occur only a few years later, altering both her professional and personal lives. NBC started casting for a new comedy called Friends in 1994. It was a modest, unassuming endeavor that subtly carried the spark of what would soon become a worldwide success. Rachel Green's main character was characterized as a fugitive bride attempting to establish her own life. When Courtney's agent heard that the studio wanted her to try out for Rachel, he virtually leaped out of his chair. She performed admirably and got the part with ease, as was to be expected. The triumph ought to have been flawless. Courtney finally got a big role after years of battling. She was surprised by one truth, though. She didn't think Rachel was the part she was supposed to play. Courtney secretly yearned to portray Monica Geller, the strong, sincere woman with far more nuance. A figure who felt intimately connected to Courtney, as though she recognized aspects of herself in each conversation line. However, she was hesitant to speak up because she was afraid that calling for Monica would offend Jennifer Aniston, who was in the running for the part. Paradoxically, Jennifer found herself in a same predicament. Her goal was to portray Rachel. Two young actors concealed their genuine desires out of fear of disappointing one another. Everything didn't come together organically until they at last expressed their emotions. Courtney changed her name to Monica. Rachel was born out of Jennifer. It's nearly impossible to see them switching in retrospect. They appeared destined for such positions. And one of the reasons Buddies became legendary was because of that flawless alignment. The program swiftly rose to fame in popular culture. 10 seasons, 236 episodes, extremely high ratings, a sizable worldwide fan base, and ultimately an unprecedented $1 million per episode salary for the performers. Once a little-known actress slowly making progress, Courtney rose to become one of the world's top TV stars. Chandler Bing, portrayed by Matthew Perry, was coupled with Monica on screen. However, their romance was just a sincere friendship off-screen. Courtney's heart belonged to someone else at the moment. Batman in Hollywood, played by Michael Keaton. The 6 years they spent together were a lovely romance that ended in divorce. Courtney suffered from emotional trauma for a long time after their 1995 breakup. Shortly later, she met David Arquette while filming Scream, which led to her most intense and well-known love affair. Their relationship, which was lively, creative, chaotic, and brimming with artistic energy, quickly won them over. They got married in 1999 and had a daughter named Coco. Courtney's 40th birthday is just 2 days away. A lovely detail. On their 5th wedding anniversary, she went into labor, making that day a double milestone. As a sign that their love and professions will advance together, they established the production firm Coet, a combination of Cox and Arquette. Fun fact: David played Phoebe's stalker in the Friends episode The One with the Jam, which was their first on-screen appearance together. This was not in Scream. Nobody thought the brief appearance would mark the start of a family. The origin of their daughter's name, Coco, is intriguing as well. Courtney decided to name her child Courteney Cox after her own mother, who also had her name, in honor of her Southern heritage. However, David Arquette's Jewish heritage just would not permit it. Jewish custom dictates that children should not be named after living people. They therefore needed to reach an agreement. Courtney's childhood pals used to refer to her mother as Mama Coco. The name Coco was formed out of that recollection. A tasteful fusion of David's religious heritage with family significance. Courteney Cox had quietly battled infertility for almost her whole adult life, so Coco's arrival was a true miracle. She had 8 miscarriages prior to Coco's arrival. Even the strongest people can be broken by one miscarriage, but 8 is an experience that is nearly impossible for others to completely understand. Despite each heartbreak, which seemed to recur like a vicious cycle, Courtney continued to get back up, keep trying, and maintain her optimism. Many in the business refer to her as one of the strongest women Hollywood has ever known because of her tenacity. Courtney was 6 months pregnant with Coco when the last episode of Friend was filmed. Her strong sense of responsibility and disciplined personality kept her working when she should have been relaxing. The slow heartbeat of a mother clinging to her last hope could be heard beneath Monica Geller's smile in the scene shot that day. And at last, the miracle occurred this time. Courtney's life started to change with the birth of Coco. She started karate as a way to keep in shape, but it gradually turned into a passion. Courtney received a brown belt by the time Coco was 20. Although it stands in stark contrast to Monica's kind, caring demeanor, Courtney's true nature. Strong, resolute, and steadfast in her pursuit of every challenge. Is reflected in this. Another noteworthy period was Courtney and David Arquette's marriage. The whole Friends cast was so happy for them when they got married that they inserted the good news into the show. Arquette was added to each cast member's last name in the episode, the one after Vegas. Even an homage to Courtney and David, who were married, was shown on the screen. A charming inside joke that stood in stark contrast to a plot point in which Monica and Chandler choose not to get married. David inscribed the words, "A deal is a deal, a promise, a commitment, a shared belief," on Courtney's wedding ring in that very episode. However, Hollywood is a place where lovely promises are occasionally insufficient to sustain love. After 14 years, they finally split up. Even still, 14 years is practically a lifetime by Hollywood standards. Together, they raised a child, established a production company, and maintained their respect for one another. Additionally, Courtney's decision to give up smoking, a habit she had maintained since she was only 13, was made possible by David. She has always treasured the change. In addition to being friends, Courteney Cox has a long and varied career that has seen many memorable high points. She gave one of the funniest performances of the 90s while starring opposite Jim Carrey and Ace Ventura. Of course, Gale Weathers from the legendary horror series Scream is unforgettable. Courtney became a pop culture mainstay for years as a result of that job. However, many directors were reluctant to cast her as someone as bright, fierce, and confrontational as Gale because of her well-known persona as Monica. Sweet, tidy, polite, and endearing, Courtney refused to give up. In order to persuade the producers that she could handle the job, she actively lobbied for it. One of the most memorable moments of her career was the performance. Courtney didn't slow down after Friends. She never saw art as merely a career. It was a lifestyle. Her friends would frequently make jokes about how she could live comfortably forever off of their royalties. Courtney, however, desired more. She desired to work behind the camera to direct, create, and discover new facets of herself. Courtney's feature film directing debut, Just Before I Go, marked an even greater leap than her previous experience directing a television series episode, a somber comedy with a lot of personal touches. The movie showed what Hollywood insiders had long believed, even though it didn't have the effect she had hoped for. The industry had not yet realized the full scope of Courtney's abilities, and there were still several levels beneath the surface. Many viewers actually found this imaginative change to be refreshing. Critics claimed that Monica's strictness and neat, controlled demeanor in Friends served as the foundation for Courtney's career, and that she was never a standout performance. She is the only cast member of Friends who has never received an Emmy or Golden Globe nomination, they further noted, and they frequently mentioned a previous scratch on her resume. For her performance in 3,000 Miles to Graceland, Courtney was once nominated for Worst Supporting Actress. Fans' love for her hasn't been diminished by all of that criticism, though. They argued that Monica was intended to be the steady, grounded character who served as the focal point for the more explosive personalities. Out of the 6 companions, Monica had the fewest solitary sessions, according to behind-the-scenes data. As a result, Courtney had significantly less room for creativity than her co-stars. Fans held her in even higher regard as a result. How does one transform the most inconspicuous character into a cultural icon that endures for almost 3 decades? Courtney is not at all like Monica in real life. She was the dancing girl in Bruce Springsteen's Dancing in the Dark, but few people are aware of this. The moment that permanently altered her life. Even the well-known Carlton dance by Alonso Rivero was influenced by the movement in the music video. A minor element that has a huge impact. Alfonso publicly acknowledged that Courtney was his inspiration, so when he tried to copyright the dance years later, he was unable to do so. This means that every time someone performs the Carlton, they are unintentionally mimicking the girl's dance from the 1984 music video. That experience followed Courtney until 1995, when she received an invitation to host Saturday Night Live. The first sketch was, of course, a reenactment of Dancing in the Dark, and Adam Sandler was the one performing Bruce Springsteen this time. A humorous reminder that Courtney is always able to reinvent herself and wholeheartedly embraces her background. There have been many significant moments in Courtney's career, but none have matched her relationship with the Friends ensemble. The world seemed to travel back in time when they reunited for the special episode in 2021. As if no time had gone, they embraced, joked, and recalled. Nobody anticipated that it would be their final full-time reunion. Courtney's